Welcome back to our 22 News debate among the candidates seeking your vote for the Massachusetts Senate seat for the 1st Hamden, Hampshire district in the September 9th Democratic primary. The last question we asked went to Mr. Saunders first, so our next question will go to Mr. LaChiusa. You're up, and this is a question on the state's welfare and transitional assistance program. The state's welfare and transitional assistance programs have been criticized for not being properly managed and riddled with abuse and fraud. What specific changes would you support to ensure our taxpayer dollars are being spent appropriately?
All right. Well, this is a pretty controversial issue, and one of the things that comes to the surface is having pictures on EBT cards. And that's something I support. I know that there's a lot of people who are not too happy about it, but you know, I work in a jail, and so I hear from people all the time about these scams and what's going on. And you know, we really have folks who are who need some. You know, we need to pull in the line a little bit on this. People are buying cigarettes and buying all sorts of things with their EBT cards. You know, when I look at the need for transitions, I mean, there's so many people who are in dire needs. They have no place to live, no money to pay for things. You know, the job market falls out. You know, we live in a pretty depressed area. And so how do people get back on track? And my thing is that when we look at transitional assistance, it really needs to be transitional. We have to help people find new jobs. We need to help them reintegrate in the community, get them to be working families, and eventually be able to buy their own home in Springfield. That's my goal.
Okay, Mr. Lesser, same question.
Thanks for the question, Laura. You know, this goes at a broader issue, which is that Beacon Hill has been asleep at the switch in managing a lot of our programs, and we owe it to the taxpayer and we owe it to all the citizens of our Commonwealth to make sure that our government is working efficiently, that we're stamping out waste, fraud, and abuse, and that we're delivering top-notch customer service in government. And that applies to all our programs. Of course, the transitional assistance programs, but all our programs as well. We need to make sure that those programs are well run so that we're giving as much help as possible to people who have fallen on hard times and need the leg up. We're a compassionate Commonwealth, and we've all, either ourselves or have had friends or neighbors who have fallen on a hard time, so we owe it to all of us to make sure that we're running those programs well and that the people who need help get it and the people who don't need the help don't. And so that's what my focus will be on, and I'm going to make sure that we focus on not just these transitional assistance programs, but all the programs in our Commonwealth, a top to bottom review on how everything's done.
Mr. Allen, you have 1 minute.
Thanks, Laura. The opportunity to receive assistance should be transitional, as Mr. LaChiusa said. What happened recently with the death of a young child is absolutely unacceptable, and we need to be aware of the issues that people have in managing that area. The caseloads are too high, but the waste, fraud, and abuse is out of control as well. So we need to be very strong in making sure that what happened will never happen again. The death of a young child is unacceptable. We need to audit that area, audit the Department of Transitional Assistance, and make sure that the caseloads are not too high and that the oversight and the monitoring is as it should be. In our society, anybody could run into a time where they would need transitional assistance, but what it should be is transitional. And the incentive, the built-in of incentives and getting people back to work and into good housing should be a priority at that point. Thank you.
Mr. Harrington.
This issue goes well beyond just an audit. This is a philosophical issue that the state of Massachusetts has right now. I'm afraid that we are now incentivizing people not to work, and that's a significant concern. I spoke to a voter along this campaign trail that manages a large organization in this area. He offered a young lady who was on transitional assistance a job for 22 hours a week. She couldn't take it because if she worked beyond 15 hours a week, she was going to lose her benefits. That makes no sense to me whatsoever. If somebody is truly willing to get off and wants to get into the workforce, they need to be incentivized to do that. There should be a layer there. If you're going to take the job for 22 hours a week, there's a layer to help you make up the difference. And that person had a young daughter, and that girl wants to go to work so that her daughter can see her go to work every single day. We've got people who are on transitional assistance that are trying to do the right thing and get off. But our philosophy in Massachusetts has lost its way. We need to incentivize people to get to work versus incentivizing people not to work right now. And that's a problem for the entire state that I'll address.
Mr. Saunders, same question.
So first off, fraud is unacceptable at any level. And we need to put the resources into holding people accountable. And it's not only the recipients, it's the shop owners. We have to make sure that that EBT card isn't allowed to be used for alcohol or cigarettes, that the use of food stamps is for nutritional foods. But you know, when you set aside the issue of fraud, when you address that, and I think that there's been steps in the right direction, millions of dollars a year recouped in fraudulent spending, taking folks who are no longer eligible for assistance because they've been caught red-handed multiple times. When you set that aside and you look at the larger issue, it's about allowing people to move forward. And when you are given the opportunity to have a car, save a couple $1,000s for first, last, and security deposit on your own apartment, then people will start to move off, and we need to do that.
Okay, our next question goes to Mr. Lesser first. Mr. Lesser, what is the very first piece of legislation that you personally would want to file or sponsor?
It's a great question, Laura. I appreciate it. As I've said throughout this debate, we need to bring some new ideas and a new approach to how things are done at Beacon Hill. We need to make sure that Western Massachusetts' voice is heard. One of the first pieces of legislation I would like to work on is getting a high-speed rail line between Boston and Springfield. We know it's achievable. The line actually already exists. The state just needs to buy the right-of-way between the Worcester to Springfield portion. A few years ago, the state bought the right-of-way for the Boston to Worcester portion. There's now over a dozen trains a day between Boston and Worcester, but they stopped in Worcester. Why did they stop in Worcester? It's the same thing we've always had and have always heard time and time again. They forget we exist beyond Worcester. That will change if I'm there. I'll make sure that they hear our voices and extend that line from Worcester out to Springfield. My second piece of legislation is going to be a comprehensive economic development package that includes investing in high-tech manufacturing, more high-tech jobs here in Western Mass.
Mr. Allen.
Hi, thanks, Laura. First, on the high-speed rail thing, that may be a good idea, but we can't afford it right now. We have 45% of our kids getting early childhood education. That's not acceptable. The fundamental thing that changes people's lives is education. The high-speed rail may be a good idea, but we can't afford it. We have other roads and bridges and things that need to be taken care of here. But most fundamentally, when 45% of our kids go into high school, go into early childhood education, or go into kindergarten, knowing 600 words, while so many other children go into kindergarten knowing 3,000 words, that's where our investment should be. It would be nice to be able to get to Boston quicker, but I don't want to be a suburb of Boston. I want to invest in Springfield. I want to invest in Western Mass. I want all of our kids to have the education they should have, and it starts with early education.
And Mr. Harrington.
The first piece of legislation that I'll be tackling will be revolving around the opiate addiction that we have here in Western Massachusetts and the entire country, quite frankly. There is a wait for people who are trying to get into services. There are people who are trying to get themselves clean and get into the working part of society, but they're waiting. They're waiting for a bed. The beds aren't available. The insurance companies aren't covering entire lengths of stay. That's at the core right now of our public safety problem that we're dealing with. We've got people who are doing these house breaks and car breaks all over the area because they're trying to feed their addiction. The addiction issue right now is significant in Western Massachusetts. With 10% unemployment, and a lot of those people right now are dealing with a lot of substance abuse issues. That's at the core of our program right now. The second piece of legislation is going to be to support the city of Springfield with getting more police officers on the street. We need 50 more police officers tomorrow on the street, and the people of Western Massachusetts need to feel safe in their community and knowing that our leaders in the city of Springfield and the state are doing something about it.
Mr. Saunders?
First piece of legislation I'm going to file is to increase the senior circuit breaker tax credit. Our seniors are suffering from increased property taxes, and that needs to be addressed. Folks living on fixed incomes simply cannot afford to keep footing the bill as costs increase and local aid either stays the same or goes down. Economic development is incredibly important, but I watched on 22 News a nationally renowned economic development bill that was filed and passed by Chairman Wagner and Senator Kondaris, written up in Forbes magazine. That's not being left behind. That's cutting edge work. And when you live and work here, you know that. So we need to implement that. We suffer from the need for instant gratification. It's going to take a little bit of time to implement a bill that was passed just 4 weeks ago, but I'm looking forward to working on the implementation. I'm looking forward to working on some property tax relief for our seniors.
Mr. Lakiza.
All right, well, again, my main concern is families, and so the root of my work is really about violence, and I see, although we need a lot of education, but when students are experiencing violence in their homes, when they don't feel safe in their own families, that's a big problem. How do you prepare for school in those situations? And so my first legislation is going to affect families by trying to reduce violence in the communities. We've done a lot of programming in our jail here, and we found that the incidence of violence has gone down. When we send serious criminals upstate, there's no family violence programming done up there. And even across the state, not every state county facility has domestic violence programs or family violence programs. So, we need to address this, but the other side is that the problem is really economic inequality. And so until we have, jobs in the city that pay people a living wage, we're not going to eliminate violence or the problems we're having in Springfield right now. Thank you.
Okay, and our next question goes to Mr. Allen first. Mr. Allen, there are about 2,000 homeless families living in hotels statewide. Many of them are here in Western Massachusetts. Taxpayers have spent about $56 million on this program since 2009. If you're elected, what can you do that both helps the homeless families but also helps the taxpayers?
Not only are many of them in Western Massachusetts, Chicopee has more of them than any other community in Massachusetts. More homeless are housed in motels in Chicopee than anywhere else. This is unacceptable. It's not a good use of money. It's not a good use of money for the current thing, for them to feel comfortable and have a good life in a motel where they're living every day. And it's not good for their growth and development and moving into a better living situation. We need to invest in job training, housing, and incentives for people to move out of homelessness and into better situations for themselves. This is something that Massachusetts has been waiting to do for too long, and I think it's time for us to really look at that issue square in the face and invest in training and housing so that people can move on, but through incentives into bettering their lives. Thank you.
Mr. Harrington.
The city of Chicopee has been unfairly burdened with this issue. I live right at the bottom of Burnett Road in Ludlow, and I see people walking around the Burnett Road area all the time. They're staying in hotels. It's not compassionate. A hotel room is not a place for a family. There's no kitchen. The rooms themselves, they're taking down the sprinkler heads because they're cooking on hot plates. It's a dangerous situation. And when you put on top of the fact that many of these people don't even live here in Western Massachusetts, they're bringing them in from the eastern part of the state and even the Greenfield area to the city of Chicopee and to the city of Springfield. That's not fair. It's not fair to the school system. It's not fair to the city leaders. It's not fair to the residents of the city of Chicopee who are doing the right thing every single day. We do have a homelessness issue in this state. The thing we need to take a look at is we are the only right to shelter state. This needs to be reevaluated. It's been in place for a few years now. We need to take a look at, are we incentivizing people to come to Massachusetts because we are going to pay $82 a night for them to stay, or are we just taking care of our own people? It needs to be looked at, and the city of Chicopee is the first and foremost. It needs to be taken care of.
Mr. Saunders.
Having homeless families in motels is the absolute worst way to address the issue of homelessness. It's the worst use of taxpayer dollars when you consider we're spending $3,000 a month upwards for a family. That is market rate and then a little some in most parts of our district. What we need to do in order to address this is simple, and injecting a little bit of common sense here or there doesn't hurt. We have to be clear with the Department of Housing and Community Development that they can no longer do this. It is not acceptable. We need to move to a congregate housing model, which has been tried and tested elsewhere and been successful. But as long as DHCD is allowed to do this, they will do this. And as state senator, I'll be the one to file the bill to say it is no longer legal to keep homeless families in motels.
Mr. LaChiusa.
Okay. Well, it's complicated because it's not simple, because there's, you have people who have to live in hotels because there aren't enough apartments that meet the standards. I mean, there's a lot of pressure on landlords. We have a lot of older homes in the area that have lead paint, that have asbestos in them and so forth, and so families just can't move into those. We also need to look at how we get families to live in their own homes, because the standards are a lot less for personal ownership, as we know. I've owned several old homes. So we need a process where people can realize if they go to the banks, they may be eligible for loans, for a mortgage, and we have too many people who think they're not. And so my goal would be to help people make that transition into homes, would open up apartments, and you know, it's the only way we're going to generate wealth for the next generation is for people to have home ownership. Thank you.
Mr. Lesser.
Thank you, Laura. The current status quo is absolutely unacceptable. It's unfair to Chicopee. The majority of the residents are not from Chicopee. It's a Commonwealth-wide problem, but Chicopee is being asked to absorb a disproportionate share of the burden. It's unfair to Chicopee. It's also unsafe for the homeless families that are being put in these motels. They're being crammed into single rooms without adequate supplies, without adequate safety. The fire department has had to be called multiple times. It's unsafe for the families. It's also far, far too expensive for the service it's providing, and it needs to change. The way we change that is by changing a political culture, frankly, that has allowed this to happen, that has allowed Chicopee to become a dumping ground for the rest of the state. That's not fair, and it needs to change. The way we do that is by putting a timestamp on this. The families need to be moved to more permanent housing solutions. They need to be moved out of the motels, and it needs to happen as soon as possible.
Okay, this is going to be our last question, but because of our time constraints, we'll have 30 seconds for an answer for this one. And I will address this one to Mr. Harrington. A couple weeks ago, state lawmakers passed a bill updating state gun laws. What is your opinion of the state's gun laws? Do you think they're adequately enforced? And would you support gun reform in the future?
I think I'm the only gun owner here today. As a part-time police officer, I do carry a gun. The gun legislation that was recently passed, the positive part about that is that both gun supporters and gun opponents came together and made a decision on this. For future issues when it comes to gun laws, I do have a concern with that, because I think we constantly, when we change our gun laws, we're impacting the legal, law-abiding gun owner. This has more to do with mental health a lot of times when these illegal guns are getting on the street. That's where the focus should be, not making it more restrictive.
When I think of the top failures of Washington, gun control is at the top of that list. And that's the big challenge that we face. Massachusetts has some of the strictest gun laws in the country, and enforcing them is another challenge. But for future gun laws, I'll support anything that gets illegal guns off the street without abridging the rights of legal gun owners. It's an accomplishable task, and I look forward to taking it on.
Yeah, I'm glad to live in Massachusetts because we have such great gun laws. I think we've avoided a lot of the mass killings that other states have had to endure because it's so difficult to get guns here. I have gone through gun training, and I really appreciate the job that instructors do. My big push would be to have more gun safes, to make them available, low cost for people, so that illegal guns aren't stolen from people's homes and distributed.
Thank you, Laura. The current, the piece of legislation that was just passed and signed into law by the governor was a good piece of legislation. It was in the right direction. Anytime you can get gun owners groups and gun control advocates in the same room agreeing on a piece of legislation, that's a good sign. We need more collaboration on this issue, not less. And I would be open to measures that continue to reduce the flow of illegal guns into our communities and continue to reduce the ability of those who are mentally ill and those who are criminals to get their hands on guns.
Thank you. The real issue is illegal guns. Legal guns are not causing the problem. Illegal guns are. What we need to do is make sure we see with this recent legislation where people came together and worked together from both sides to create this piece of legislation. Before we think about future legislation, let's see how this current legislation works out. We've just done it. It's just being implemented. That's most important, that we make sure we implement what we have rather than think about the future one.
Okay, and we have reached the end of our question-answer portion of this debate. We're going to take a short break, and when we return, we'll hear from each of the candidates one more time in their closing statements. Stay with us. You're watching a special 2014 decision State Senate debate on 22 News. Stay with us.